Good morning, everyone. Ma'am, shall we start with your kind permission? Madam, you have to unmute.
Yeah,
Yeah. So, good morning, one and all. On behalf of Navjivan Center for Development, I would like to welcome you on today's webinar. Uh, Before beginning, let me give the 1 minute introduction about the Navjivan Center for Development. Navjivan Center for Development is a Gujarat-based organization, and primarily we are, the helping non-profits to increase their reach, channelize the resources, and expansion of their various activities. So far, we have 10 years of experience on the ground. We help, the 500 plus organization across the country, and we are also giving a training to the trustees and board members for various, important legal provisions pertaining with the non-profit business like FCRA, like income tax, GST, and all other stuff. On behalf of Navjivan Center for Development, I would like to welcome you all. Today, we have choose very important topic that how we empower women. And Dr. Kalpana Gopalan, ma'am, having a have to give us a very wonderful title. Actually, with we have it is not our own creations. The title, which is fantastic title designed by the Kalpana ma'am, especially focus on women's empowerment, like Baker Capability Crack. It is so many of our participants, they really appreciate that nice title, because it is very creative. So thank you, ma'am, for remain creatives and giving the wonderful title Baker Capability Crack, an extraordinary tool for ordinary women. Krishna ma'am, we really appreciate your way of giving back to the society. So far, I mean, you are quite busy with your own portfolios, but whenever the people like approach, you usually accept our invitation. So we are really honored and we feel really privileged to your sessions and to your time that you have given to us today. And I'm sure that the most of the participants, they are representing the non-profit society across the country, and they are the influencer in the society. So your knowledge, your wisdom will definitely go into the grassroots level, and that will also help to empower the many women in the country. Now let me introduce Dr. Kalpana Gopalan ma'am. Dr. Kalpana Gopalan ma'am is currently the additional chief secretary, youth empowerment boards, government of Karnataka. Ma'am, you have also had the various positions in Indian administrative services, like additional chief secretary, Department of Administrative Reforms, Training and Political Pensions, principal secretary, DPR, Training, and director, General Administrations, Training Institutions, principal secretary, Food, Civil Supplies, Consumer Affairs, and Legal Metrology, chairman, Karnataka Appellate Tribunals, managing director, Karnataka State Handicraft Development Corporation Limited, managing director, Karnataka Public Land Corporation Limited, Managing Director, Karnataka Shops and Detergent Limited, Principal Secretary, Department of Personal and Administrative Reforms, Commissioner, Survey Settlement and Land Reform, Special Secretary, Bhumi, Department of Land Revenues, Director, Personnel and IT, Karnataka Power Transmission Corporation Limited, Department of Energy, Director, Employment and Training, Department of Labor, Director, Mass Education, Department of Education, Chief Executive Officer, Jilla Panchayat, Bangalore, Department of Rural Development, Panchayati Raj, Managing Director, Karnataka Silk Marketing Board, Department of Sericulture. So, dear participant, I have only read the half designation that Madam hold. It takes at least half of the time of our webinar to introduce the Madam. Madam, Dr. Kalpana Madam is a cosmopolitan public policy professional, truly versatile, and they wears the many hats as a practitioners, policymakers, scholars, authors, volunteers, and mother. She secured the 9th rank in the All India Combined Civil Service Examination in 1987. Her 32 years work experience in the Indian administrative services span land administrations, urban management, public distribution systems, sports, rural development, youth, training, and education. She now affiliated as the Additional Chief Secretary, Department of Youth Empowerment, Sports, Government of Karnataka. Ma'am also won the many awards from various institutions, and she is also giving the voluntary services in the capacity of advisor at the various institutions across the country, like Akshay Patra Foundations, Chief Patron NSS, Mentor Ashoka Innovation for the Public, Technical Advisor Grassroots Research and Advocacy Movement, Mysore, Advisor Bangalore Women Forum, Member Advisory Panel Center for Health and Development, Mangalore. And Madam is a public speaker, good orators, writers, authors, and having so many credentials in her profile. Ma'am, on behalf of Navjivan Center for Development and our non-profit community leader across the country, I would like to welcome on this forum today. Now, Madam, I would like to invite you to share your wisdom, share your experience, and share your, the tools, that is helpful to the women across the country. Thank you, ma'am, for joining us today. Now, over to you, ma'am.
Thank you. કેમ છો? મજામાં?
મજામાં, madam.
આજે સવારે અહીંયા આવીને તમારી સાથે વાત કરવાની મને ખૂબ જ આનંદ થયો.
We really appreciate, ma'am. You know Gujarati also.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am.
Good morning to all of you. Thank you all for being here. It is a privilege for me to address all of you this morning, and I congratulate the organizers at NCD for organizing this online talk. Let me just get this right. Are you able to see the PPT?
Not, madam, yet not. Yes, now the madam screen is visible.
As a woman in a leadership position, I'm frequently asked to speak on women and women's issues. On such occasions, I speak of ordinary women, not celebrities or heroines. I speak of those who have transcended their personal circumstances or adverse externalities and carved out a future for themselves and those that they love. I strongly believe that these individual stories together script the collective narrative of all women. In doing so, these ordinary stories of ordinary women like you and I become a powerful, transformational, and extraordinary narrative of women as a collective. This set me thinking. We speak of empowerment easily and often. We use the term loosely, as though it is an achievement. But what is empowerment really? The prefix M in empower troubles me, as though it is something that the more powerful and privileged bestow upon the less powerful and privileged. Indeed, if you look at the dictionary or the thesaurus, the synonyms jump out. Empower means to allow, to give power and authority. This is not just condescending. It is not even true, is it? Look back to your own lives or other women that you know. When I look at people that I admire, whether women or men, no one gave them anything. They pulled themselves up by their bootstraps, not once or twice, but each time that they fell or were pushed down. That includes me. I may look successful and fulfilled, but I was not handed anything on a platter. I have striven and coped and toiled. If anything, people around me made things more difficult, either deliberately or inadvertently. The so-called empowered women struggled, strived, and thrived over many years, slowly, gradually, at times painfully. Each story is different, but one thing is common. These women built their individual capability, and this made them not symbolic shells who were given power, but the true architects of their own self-empowerment. Building capability. That is the key. Building capability, rather than empowerment, is a far more accurate description of my journey and the journey of many women that I know. If it sounds familiar, let me remind you, building capability is the underpinning of the Nobel laureate Amartya Sen's capability approach. Sounds too theoretical? Well, let me make it simple. For me, this sums up my capability approach. Don't give me a larger slice of the cake because I am a woman. What I want is not just a bite into your slice. I want to choose the cake that I eat, its texture and flavor and color, and I want to learn to bake it myself and share it with you too, equally. This is what Ms. Ela Bhatt once said, and I am just recalling that from memory. The capability approach. What is the use of theory if it does not enable practice, help us live a better life? Let me delve deeper into what constitutes my capability cake. Here too, the flavors and colors may vary, but the seminal ingredients of my capability cake are just three: competence, courage, compassion. Let me unlayer these three concepts. Competence. This is the easiest as it can be acquired, learned. Competence means being good, being the best at what you do. It includes education, a qualification, but goes beyond it. I could have used the word education, but it would be too narrow. My grandmother, we used to call her Ba, Kashiben was her name, we used to call her Ba. Her formal education stopped at school, but her knowledge of the world, of people, was unsurpassed, and she was the world's best cook. The mouth still waters at the memory of her montal. Competence is your qualification, your special skill or talent, that value add that you bring to your task that no one else can. It cuts across professions. It applies to career women as much as to homemakers. And best of all, it can be learned. Here is Sunidhi Manjunath. Sunidhi is 12 years old and visually challenged. I met her at the Asha Kirana School for the Blind in Chikmagalur in January 2019. Sunidhi was fully immersed in blind chess. That's what she's playing in the picture here. Perhaps others around her were aware of her disability, but she was completely unaware. I remarked in amazement, "You will be a champion soon, Sunidhi." And sure enough, in April 2019, she had won the first prize in the National Blind Chess Championship in Goa. Today, We are not bound by a formal school and collegiate system. Whatever your field of interest, knowledge is available at your fingertips on the internet, television, and a host of non-formal education systems. Use them all. Learn continuously. Be the best at what you do. Second, courage. This is often innate, but it can be acquired too. Here is Mallika. When she lost her husband at a young age, she learned to drive and became a buggy driver in the Kerala University in Belagavi. She has put her son through college and got her daughter married with her own earnings. All of us may not face such adversity as Mallika, but there are so many situations, petty as they may seem, confronting a bully in your office, enduring an untenable situation at home, and ignoring a rude remark with a smile, all of which require quiet courage or endurance from you. Sometimes you need courage just to hang in there when the world around you goes berserk. Sometimes you need courage to stay in the arena even as you are being pushed to its margins. In these times, what you need is faith in the universe and self-belief, and the stubbornness not to give up. Finally, compassion. For me, this is the most critical attribute of a fully capable woman. We are each a daughter, sister, wife, mother, professional, but we are also members of a society and citizens of a nation. We are familiar with corporate social responsibility or the public responsibility of governments. But there is something more. Each of us has a personal social responsibility which we have to recognize and acknowledge. This is our debt to our fellow women and men that we have to pay or pay back. Of course, you are busy with your job and your family and the rush of daily life. But still, choose some sphere, some field you are interested in, and share your talent, knowledge, or expertise. If you are a good singer, go to a hospital or an old age home and sing to the residents. If you love literature, share the delights of a Shamal Bhatt or an Ankit Trivedi with the children in your neighborhood. Pushpalata is a nurse and my NSS coordinator, and she is on COVID-19 duty. The exacting work never dampened her spirits, and after 1 week of COVID duty, she wanted to continue. We had to persuade her to take a break as per protocol. This spirit cannot be born of competence or courage. It needs that special ingredient of compassion. Let me go back to theory. When I began my talk, I spoke of the Nobel laureate Amartya Sen's capability approach. But my interpretation of the theory was through the metaphor of baking a cake. Why do I choose such a simple metaphor to speak of serious gender issues? There are reasons for this. Theory cannot remain an academic exercise. It has to be interpreted, translated, and applied in our life and work. It is easier to remember and practice a concept when it is expressed in simple everyday terms. If I had given you a lecture on gender discrimination, it would have displayed my scholarship. But you will not remember anything of value to take away, and more importantly, to live by and to practice. The second reason is, while speaking of gender or other forms of discrimination, we speak of external factors. And it is true that social and structural issues play a large part in creating the problem. But the fact that the source of the problem lies outside us should not induce helplessness and inaction. You cannot wait till the world changes. You have to effect the change in yourself, impact your own life, and thereby become part of the solution. I believe that solutions to the intractable problems of the world are found most of the time by small, gradual, incremental choices of ordinary people like you and I. That is why I have not shown you pictures of a Gloria Steinem or an Angela Davis. I have instead showcased Sunidhi, Mallika, and Pushpalata. Third, I believe that every problem has a solution, and that solution lies in simple but substantial action, not symbolism. It is not necessary to shout slogans and join marches. It is not possible for all of us to do so. Symbolic actions do have their value, but what will affect the substantial change are simple, ordinary solutions practiced with extraordinary diligence. Yes, like COVID-19, hand washing, wearing a mask, distancing, simple solutions, but substantial impact. So, my dear sisters, do not wait to be empowered. You build up your capability, your competence, your courage, your compassion. Help and encourage the women around you to do the same. Your daughter, mother, sister, friend, and frenemy. You can do it, starting now. Thank you all, and fly free. Jai Hind.
Thank you, Madam, giving a formula for 3C: competency, courage, and compassion. Now, I would like to invite the question from the audience to have a real-time the experience of Madam. So she will answer your question. So I would like to request all the delegates to write your question in a chat box. Ma'am, before beginning ahead, I have, ma'am, one question that I think you have achieved many things in your life. Ma'am, can you explain your, the model of getting success in your life?
I don't think there is any formula. I don't waste my time on what I consider inessential in life. I don't waste time on lying, cheating, gossiping. So if you always speak the truth, then your mind is free. It is free to concentrate on other stuff. I have practiced an ethic that I will never hurt or harm anybody in my life. That saves a lot of time. If you don't gossip about others, that saves a lot of time. So I think that releases both your mind and your time. It is just practicing an ethical way of life. It releases a lot of time. It releases your mind to focus on better things. I try to avoid all negativity. I focus on the positive side of any experience. Let me give you an example. You were just asking me about COVID-19 before we began the talk. Now, some of you may know that last month, in the middle of July, I was diagnosed with COVID-19. And since I have my very aged parents, they are well into their 90s, they are at home with me. So I did not want to endanger them in any way. So for their safety, I decided to isolate myself. And I also had breathlessness. I opted for hospitalization. Now, when I told a few people that I had COVID-19, they were all very shocked and very sympathetic. Oh God, what has happened to you? Why this and all that? But I never felt that this was something which I should be afraid of or worry over. So I spent my time in hospital, and I've written a small write-up about it. You can see it on LinkedIn. See, I never get time. Time is always a precious commodity, and I always like to learn more, and I never get enough time to learn everything. So I decided that every day I will just try to learn as much as possible about any particular subject which interests me. So it was different things. It was, I wanted to know more about astronomy. I don't know much. I tried to see the documentaries of Carl Sagan, or about Charles Darwin and his theory, about Yuval Noah Harari and his philosophy, about South American political economy. We as a country, we know a lot about USA and North America. We don't know much about South America. So every day I would focus on a different topic and try to learn as much. And I also actively participated in my treatment. I used to note down every single symptom or problem or any change in a little on my mobile. Actually, I maintained a small mobile journal, and I used to keep advising both the doctors and the nurses as to what changes are going on. So it also kept them up to speed on how my condition was changing or how the disease was progressing. So I was an active participant in my own treatment. So at the end of 10 days, that I had a retest, I was found negative and I was discharged. But on the whole, instead of being a scary or a fearful experience, it was a positive experience for me. So every experience in life has both its positive and negative aspects, and I have always found it helpful to focus on the positive aspects. So I think that is probably more the secret.
Yeah, thank you, oh, ma'am. There are some questions from the participant as well.
Yeah.
Now, Sukruti Malik asked the question: how we can motivate women to take the decision and come to become independent? I'm facing the challenge this woman from village areas.
Yeah, see, the thing is, since women have been so used to being marginalized, they don't even understand their own capability. And I remember that, my father used to keep saying this about my mother, that my mother is from Gujarat. And he used to say she is capable of doing everything, but you have to, as long as you allow her to depend on you, she'll depend on you. But you just make her do something and she will be able to manage perfectly well. So most of the time you don't even realize that one has the capacity. You do have the capacity to meet any situation. And women have been always the bulwark of a family. So it is just the same thing in the external world. So most of the time it is, showing women that they are fully capable. And then when they realize it, there is no stopping. So it is, that self-awareness has to come rather than, trying to handhold. Build up that confidence, build up their own awareness, show them the crisis which they have faced in their own life and how they overcome it. And then that confidence will come.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. Now, Palvi Sheth asked the one question that respected ma'am, cannot we omit the word itself as a women empowerment? Some this word itself generate the need kind of feelings and in the world. Everybody has that power. Can you give, or can we replace the word can and go ahead? Can you suggest another that word which motivate, make understood in a better way in the world?
Yeah, I use this dichotomy between capability and empowerment. And I do believe that a very good substitute for empowerment is capability. But that said, okay, words are unimportant. It is the substance which is important. Whether you empower yourself, there is self-empowerment, or build up your own capability, or build up others' capability. What is important is the doing, is the action, the substantial action required. Words will change. We used to have something called gender studies. Then it becomes women's studies, then empowerment. These words change. As society changes, the usage of words also changes. Please concentrate on what is substantial, and that is building your own capability and building the capability of other women around you, and building the capability of men also. I don't think that we should treat women as some kind of separate group and give some special treatment. Society as a whole should progress. Society as a whole should understand the capacity and capability of women, how well they can fulfill their responsibilities. I think that is really good.
Yeah. Thank you, ma'am. Now the question is, madam, how to find oneself and realize one's capacity? Mr.
Yeah,
Jyoti,
I can
Jyoti,
see
yeah.
Jyoti Rani's question. I can see that. Two ways I can just think of. One is to think, use your mind. God has given us that power of thinking and knowing yourself, thinking about yourself and what you can and cannot do, what are your strong points, what are your failures, or what are your weaknesses, and then trying to overcome them. One is using the mind. Okay, the other is experience. So, sometimes it seems to, when I speak of it, it looks as though these are opposites, but it is not. It is just two parts of the same coin. One is thinking about yourself. Another is jumping into life. Just do it. It's like, you can't learn swimming standing on the edge of the pool and, let me learn all how freestyle and breaststroke. You have to jump into the pool. Only then you can learn swimming. So the second part is experience. As you jump into life, as you start doing things, you will come to know what you can do well, what you cannot do well, where you should correct yourself, where you can improve yourself. So this is a kind of, parallel process that you think about yourself and also test yourself in a way that by doing things. Jump into life, jump into experience. Don't be afraid. Keep the windows and doors of your heart and your mind open.
Yeah. So thank you, ma'am. Now the question is that we have taken 1 minute. Yeah. There is lots of appreciation received you, madam, for the participation.
Thank you. Very kind.
Dr. Kamal Krishna Banik asked the positive thoughts for women to uplift and uphold the dignity for women's really great job. The ma'am question is, can you please give an example where one leader motivate another woman to become a leader? Mr. Rajiv asked the questions. Can you please give example where one leader motivate another woman to become leader?
There are plenty of examples in the corporate world. There are also examples in officialdom, but I'm just trying to think of something which Ela Bhatt of Seva is a great example. I wanted to think of an example in the non-profit sphere and look at the tremendous work which has been done. And it is not just that women are empowered. It's a movement which focuses both on the end user as well as the producer. So on the one side, the capability of women is built and they are enabled to earn their own livelihood. On the other side, even the consumer, you are not giving something for charity, or the consumer is not compelled to buy something because it is a non-profit. The consumer gets very classy stuff, very good quality stuff, and a complete revenue stream and a complete supply chain has been built up. So there are any number of examples. Many are small and trivial examples. I strongly believe in sisterhood, that each of us should help the other, not neglecting the men, but bringing them also together into the fold. So one example which I can give you is that of Ela Bhatt, very close to you, and you can go and see for yourself.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. Now the question is, what are the initiatives to place in your region towards the women's empowerment? Is there any specific program design? Ma'am, Muralidharan asked the questions.
I'm not able to find that question. Muralidharan, is it?
Question is, what are the initiatives to place in your regions towards the women's empowerment? Is there any specific program designed?
Okay. My region, I work in Karnataka, but this is true of the whole country, that we have a Department of Women and Child Development. It is there in the Ministry of Women and Child Development in the center, and the departments of women and child development in the states. All the states have this department, either as an independent department or as part of a larger social justice or social welfare ministry. Okay, and any number of programs are there, ranging from rural to urban. In my own state, we have the Women's Development Corporation, where we give loans to women to set up their own startups or earn their own livelihoods, whether they want to start a beauty parlor or a tailoring unit or learn computers. Loan is provided for that purpose. We also, under the SSA, there is a special trust for women's education. And for rural women, we have what used to be called Vakra. And when I was in as a young officer when I joined service, we used to have the Vakra, where we used to give small loans, hand loans to rural women based on a group of women who will each contribute towards that revolving fund, and government also will contribute. Besides this, we also have now the Dwakra has actually evolved into self-help groups or Stri Shakti, where small groups of women form a kind of community and they help each other. Both the government and the women themselves contribute to a fund out of which loans are given to set up small units. And with this, we had actually extraordinary success in very backward states, districts of Karnataka like Bidar and Raichur, which are in general very backward. But these women's groups were able to collect so much money that they were able to even set up a small bank. And from that, they were able to, generate both, give loans to women and generate revenue for the entity itself, for the bank itself. So there are any number of programs available, both from government and self-help groups. And and both for urban and for rural women. So you can avail any of them, and most of this information is available on the internet. You can just have a look.
Dr. Monal Brahmbhatt asked the questions: how do you overcome the challenges? How do you overcome the challenges when you initiate something and receive limited inspirations in the beginning? What moving?
Can you give me the name, please?
Monal
Brahmbhatt. Monal Brahmbhatt.
Yes,
how do you overcome challenges when you initiate something and receive limited inspiration? It has to come from within. See, most of the time, everybody is engaged in their own struggles. Nobody in this country, we always think that someone else is more privileged. It's not so. Every single person has their own struggles, their own restrictions. They have to cope with so many, either people trying to pull them down or other kinds of difficulties, their own personal limitations. So it is not handed on a platter to anyone. That is what I was trying to tell in my talk also. So most of the time you have to be self-driven. That so things will happen. You will fall down, get up, brush the dust off, and start running again. So the thing is that not to give up. Persistence is more important than success all the time. Because if you are there and you are able to cope, then one day or other, don't think of success as an objective. Think that I will not give up, and I will continue to strive. And one day or other, that recognition or that livelihood or that income which you aspire for, that will be yours. The important thing is not to give up. And you have to be self-driven. Never look for validation or motivation from outside. It has to come from within.
Yeah, so I think it is something about the inner engineering, is it, ma'am?
Yes.
Yeah. Ma'am, there is one question related to women's entrepreneurship. Can you share some examples related to women's entrepreneurship that you have seen?
I can't see. Can you tell me who is the person?
The person is 1 minute. Yeah. Mr. Sangappa BC, IIMR Hyderabad. Is there any scope to promote the millets through women's entrepreneurship development? Please let me know where to submit the project proposal.
I'm not able to find and I'm not able to hear you properly. Can you repeat the question, please?
The question is there is something about the women entrepreneurship. The person asked the question for considering the millet through women's entrepreneurship developments. So can you share something in line with that?
Millets, is it?
Yes, millets.
Millets. Okay. If there is some entrepreneurial venture in the promotion or use of millets, then the best place to approach would be, there are two options for you. One is the agriculture department. In Karnataka, I know that we are having a millet development program. So we encourage production of millets as well as millet-based industries. We have a small startup also near Mandia, which is organic millet farming and sale of millet products. Besides this, there is also the industries department, where if you are going into food processing, then producing atta or mixed millet, then the industries department also, processing industries relating to millet or any kind of agricultural produce, both these departments will have schemes. Almost every state, they will have some scheme or other. So these are the two options which you can explore. Depending on your specific situation, you should check the websites of those particular states.
Thank you, madam. Now the question is from Dharitri Shahu. Respected madam, in the tribal areas, many girls or women become victims of domestic violence or rape cases. After then, they don't get any support from family. How to encourage them or make them learn to make positive change in their lives?
In these kind of specific and serious aspects, it is not fair to expect that the women themselves come forward or fight against their oppression. So there should be an external agent who is able to handhold them. And in cases of domestic violence, the two wings of government which are engaged in this prevention of this activity or addressing this menace are the police one and the women and child department. So we, in fact, in our state, we have, I myself am running a program called Yuva Spandana, where we have counselors trained by NIMANS. We call them Yuva Parivartakas, who are trained in counseling by the National Institute of Mental Health and Neuroscience, NIMANS, which is based in Bangalore. They go around in the rural areas and they first, talk to women's groups or institutions, schools, colleges, and they say that any of you have some problems, then come to us. And we have had instances where, women have come and complained of some kind of violence or oppression within their family. And then we further escalate that whole issue to the police or to the women and child department, both of whom have specific programs targeted towards this particular form of abuse. So the thing which is required and which many of you can do is to do the mediation. The women themselves may not approach the police. The women themselves may not be able to approach officials of the Women's Development Department. But if there is an NGO or a non-profit which helps to build that connection, so that is what our Yuva Parivartakas do. They make that connection. They are not the police. They don't have that kind of legal power, but they help to make that connection. They build the bridge between the suffering entity and the redressal mechanism. So that is something which many of you can attempt.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. Now the Sunil Kumar asked the one question: if any challenges you facing regarding the women's empowerment in the current scenario, by Sunil Gorakhpur.
I am not able to, Sunil, if any changes you facing. See, the thing is, yes and no. Okay, I always try. I don't know whether you would call it, any kind of discrimination, but I recall my own story that my family always encouraged education. So education was very important in the family. My parents always encouraged me to study well, and I was a good student. And I was doing my BA. In fact, BA final exams were approaching, and I was studying for my BA finals. And one of my uncles was a little conservative, little old-fashioned, nice person, good person, well-intentioned, but little conservative in his thoughts. So he was my father's elder brother. He suddenly decided that I was reaching my 20s. He said she should get married. And my parents, on the one side, they have encouraged me to study, and education was so important. But they also had this lot of respect for elders in the family. So when an elder brother says, no, let her get married, we call it Periyappa in big uncle. Okay, that in South we call it Periyappa or Doddappa. So when an elder in the family gives a advice, that has to be followed. Like they defer to their elders, so to say. So I was shocked that marriage was very far away from my thoughts. I wanted to study, and I remember I used to be preparing for my BA finals, and every half an hour or 1 hour I'll come out of the room and I will tell my parents I want to do my MA. I want to do my MA. And generally, I have never had major confrontations with my parents until then. I was not a rebel, and my parents were very encouraging, so I never had cause to fight with them or quarrel with them or have any conflict in the household. So this was very new for me. It was something which was I was totally unused to, that I have this aspiration for education, and my parents are saying get married. So I used to keep coming. I still remember that I used to come running out of the room and say, I want to do my MA. And just see that, at that time I was very young and I didn't have very big dreams. I was not thinking of the IAS or even higher education or a PhD or anything. I just wanted to do an MA. That was, the extent of my dream, that I want to finish my MA. It is unthinkable for me that I would not be able to do an MA. And anyway, it worked, and my parents agreed with me, and the marriage program was postponed, and I got to finish first my BA. I topped the university. Then I got to finish my MA. I topped the university again, and then subsequently I got into the IAS, and then I finally did my doctorate also. That I completed my education. I won't say completed, but at least I got quite far in my education also, up to a PhD at least. And then I got into a professional job like the IAS. So it is not that, people should wish you ill or deliberately try to harm you. It is just that our social structure is such that sometimes even parents like mine, who are very forward looking, very progressive, very education oriented, but when some elder in the family says, they feel that they should listen to him and be respectful towards the elder. So there are some occasions in life when you have to put your foot down, and for me it was that occasion, that though I just wanted to do at that time finish an MA, but it took me a very long way, because then I could, of course I got married also, but later, when in my own time. So this is one experience from life that I myself had, that it really, sometimes you need to know what you want to do and put your foot down. So that is one example from my life.
Thank you, ma'am, for securing, and congratulations for ranking in UG and PG program.
Oh, it's very old now.
And continue your journey for a student for a longer period of time. It is really inspirational for everyone. Now, Virish, you ask the questions as a woman who has the talent but hidden. How we help them, women, to get talent out to the world?
See, there are any number of ways. See, one is to build that talented woman's inner faith or self-belief in herself, her confidence in herself. So one is that aspect. You build that person's own confidence. Even if it is you yourself, build up your own confidence so that you are able to come forth and show your talent to the outside. The other is to create avenues where that talent can be recognized. Now, this can be something. So everything need not be revenue earning. It need not, wealth creation is not the only objective, nor that your name should appear in the newspapers. By merely making your talent useful to others, that itself is a recognition and a validation. So the other way, the second way is to build up that external thing. Now, let us say a talented woman, she sings very well. Then create opportunities for her to sing in small fora, maybe another group of women or a ladies club or larger groups, give her a stage where she can sing. Or if somebody does, I knew this woman. I used to be the managing director of Kaveri Handicrafts. Now you have Gurjari in Gujarat. In Karnataka, the same organization, Handicrafts Corporation, is called Kaveri Handicrafts. And I remember a woman in Dharwad district. Dharwad is famous for Kasuti embroidery. And I was telling my marketing manager that we are only promoting the same old kind of handicrafts, as well as the same people. Only the same people will supply to our corporation. Let us expand our reach. And then he knew, and then he took me to this lady, and extraordinarily beautiful embroidery. And then I realized that there were also other women, that these were Lambani women. Okay, Lambanis are famous for their embroidery. So, and what they lacked was the capital, that they could not, have a supply chain or marketing outlet where they can display or sell their products. So in Kaveri, we have, Kaveri opens out into the most, busiest road in Bangalore, which is called MG Road. And we have a space just outside where it's a kind of large pavement. So part of that pavement, we said we will give this free of charge to anybody who does not have a regular setup. They are not, a unit or a firm, but they are skilled at doing this. And we created that avenue, and then these Lambani women, we had to encourage them, we had to motivate them. First, they were not even willing to come. First, they told me, go away, go away. They thought I've come to buy their stuff for myself. I said, go away, go away. I said, no, we want you to show your stuff, and we want other people to buy them. And then they came all the way from Dharwad and those northern parts of Karnataka. And they came and displayed beautiful belts and bags with mirror work, very similar to the kind of work which Gujarat does. The same kind of work is done in Karnataka also. Slightly, there will be variations, but basically the same kind of mirror work. Most of it is mirror work and embroidery. I wish I had something here to show you. And it just got sold out because that road is a very busy road, and these women bought their bags and belts and, nice stuff, purses and all. And it just got sold like hotcakes. So it's both. You have to encourage, motivate, support in a psychological level, and also give very strong practical and pragmatic support, like marketing support or training. That kind of thing also has to be done. That is the way you can help.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am, for real-time example that you are sharing. Participants are really appreciating. Story of your life which struggle hard to reach one such glorious position. So it is an appreciation. The one question.
I can't hear you, and I can't see the question.
Yeah, 1 minute, ma'am.
Give me the name of the person and I'll share that.
Yeah, Dr. Kamal Krishna Banik asked the questions: accept help, know thyself, and must achieve by breaking the every barriers to reach the sustainable development goal for the community project development. I think.
Is that Dr. Kamal Krishna Banik, he who is engaged in assiduous research without fund? Is that the one? Minded service with love as a result. Service charge only for better. It's not a question.
It is not the question. Yeah, Raju Khilare, you can see the many areas are gender inequalities. How is the politics area in the woman decision making minimum woman? What is the reason behind it? I think the question something related to the woman's involvement in the politics. Can you explain, ma'am?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Can you tell me the name of the person?
Raju Khilare. Raju Khilare.
Not able to find it, but anyway, let me address the question. Now, in women have a recent entrance into politics, okay, even later than administration. There have been a very few women in politics, but they are relatively a new entrant, particularly in rural areas. So they do need that support, and they do need to build up a bank of experience. Men have been in. Remember one thing, that our country, in fact, we started with universal suffrage from the beginning. Our women never had to fight for the right to vote, which happened in the West, in USA and UK. They had to fight for the right to vote. Women could not vote. But our founding fathers were so far-sighted in their vision. Gandhiji, Jawaharlal Nehru, and others, that we had, from the beginning, we had the right to vote. But being active participants in politics as politicians, not just as electors, that has taken time. But here also, I have seen that women are building up a bank of experience. Now, in Karnataka and in Gujarat, and now the whole country has Panchayati Raj. And we began, in Karnataka, we began Panchayati Raj sometime in 1987. That is the time when I joined service. And there are, these constituencies or grams, village panchayats, which are reserved for women. And what used to happen is that the most important person, the most powerful person in that village, his wife used to stand. If it was a reserved constituency, his wife will stand for election and she will get elected. And when she gets elected, for everything, she used to refer to her husband. Sometimes the husband used to come and sit in the Gram Panchayat meeting also. So virtually it is being run by the husband or the father or the brother or some powerful man of the household. But Naam ke vaste, the women used to be there. This was in the beginning. But over a period of time, women have, and I have been observing this for the past 30 years, because Panchayati Raj now is more than 30 years old in Karnataka. The women have built up their own experience, and now you have many confident women who are going and standing in elections in their own right, and they are chairing the meetings, they are visiting, doing field visits, they are doing development works. That confidence has come up. So that opportunity has first to be given. The legal opportunity was given by the Panchayati Raj Act. But slowly the bank of experience builds up. It may not be very visible all the time. It may not be very overt, but over a series of choices and over a period of time, that experience and that confidence is built up. So that will happen everywhere. So the same will happen in politics. If you give reservation for women, generally, after a period of time, they will not need it anymore. That they will be able to build up on their own confidence and their own experience.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. So now there are certain target audience specific tasks, question that I would like to ask you, ma'am. Now, the most of the people, they are joined from representing non-profit organization in the country. Ma'am,
Yeah.
by considering the current scenario and the opportunity, can you explain some areas where NGO can design their project, or they can work in this particular area based on our own experience and observations?
Okay. One area which immediately comes to mind, which is a very virgin area, which is very new area. Our country has not concentrated on it, but it needs to. And that is what is called the creative economy. Okay? What is creative economy? It is an economy which is built on the knowledge, skills, and special talents of the people of that region. Okay? So let us take handicrafts. India is so rich in handicrafts, but the artisans themselves are so poor. Why? Because they lack marketing, they lack training, they do not have adequate outlets. I was just speaking about how the Lambani women do beautiful embroidery. They only needed an outlet to market. Now, if you are able to create a methodology by which they are trained. So sometimes they, this used to happen in Chennapatna. Let me just give you an example. Chennapatna is a small taluka place near Bangalore, about 100 kilometers from, less than 100 kilometers from Bangalore, where they make wooden toys. And the artisans there, the toys used to be very good. The colors were very bright, but they were using dyes or colors which were toxic, which were harmful for the skin. And therefore, we could not market them outside the country. And even within the country, there were restrictions. So then we trained them in the use of vegetable dyes, non-toxic coloring agents. And now they are producing the same stuff, the same beautiful stuff, but we are able to market them both within and outside the country. So one is that you create that kind of training which is in tune with the rest of the world, and then you create the marketing linkage. So this is one aspect where non-profits can really do a great job, because the creative economy of the country is the foundation. And take Anand, for example. See, it's a agro-based product. Milk is dairy. It has been in our country for centuries, but today we have built a successful enterprise called Amul out of it. So capitalize on those trends, and non-profits are best equipped to do this. This is one side. The other is that, you encourage that entrepreneurship itself in women, that they start going out, reaching out, building up. And now it is possible to do this on the internet. You can have a complete display of your products on the internet, and that, that itself becomes a marketing conduit for you. So this is one way, the creative economy, and that includes everything. It includes fabrics, it includes handicrafts, it includes everything which is special and unique to us. Even our food, our cooking. Pizzas are known all over the world. It's just a very simple dish from one part of Italy, but now they are known all over the world. So that can happen with our doklas and our idlis. So there are these trends which we have, which we don't realize. We take it for granted because it's part of our daily life. What you need to do is to put it in the proper format, which is acceptable to the outside world, and create the linkages. So that is something which, perhaps you can think of.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am, for giving one nice word called creative economics, creative economy. We really appreciate your interpretation, and maybe the charitable institutions, non-profit businesses, they take up further in regards with your narratives. Now, ma'am, can you explain, even in this country, largely there are patriotic, the structures. So what is what kind of the suggestion that you would like to share to the male candidate? They need to take care of, for empowering the women in a real sense. Advisory for male.
My advice for women and men are the same. We are different, but we should not discriminate between each other. So we should learn to respect and rejoice in each other's differences. And men have had a longer time span of exposure to the outside world, and therefore they are more confident when they go out. So that support, perhaps at least in the initial years, until women build up their bank of experience and confidence, some support and encouragement would be good. Above all, whether women or men, what we should focus on is not block another's progress. It could be anyone. It could be your son or your daughter. If your daughter is very good, let us say at shooting, then encourage her. If she's very good in sports, encourage her. If your son is very good in singing, don't say this is a woman's task. Encourage him to sing. Now again, I will just give you a real life example that I attend a lot of programs in government. That we have lots of programs which we attend, and usually at the beginning of every program we have an invocation song. You also would be, there will be Saraswati Vandana or some invocation song, some Ganesh Stotram will be sung, or any kind of prayer. So there'll be an invocation song. And I am so used to, hearing these invocation songs. And these are usually sung by either one woman or a girl or a group of women. No, it's very rare. You hardly ever see in the smaller programs, in the official programs as we call them, men coming forth to sing. Now, some months ago, maybe about 6 months ago, I visited an NSS, National Social Service Scheme. We had an NSS program in a place called Bidar. It's a small village called Halahalli in Bidar. It's just not even a taluka place, just a small area within Bidar district. Bidar itself is very backward, and this was even more backward. And we had gone to a +2 college for a NSS program. And we have an NSS invocation song. And then there's a boy called Mallikarjun. He came and sang that invocation song at the beginning of the program, and he sang so beautifully. It was so mellifluous and lovely to listen to him. And I was so happy because in that very small way, for you it may seem that it's a very petty thing, it's a very trivial thing. But in that very small way, in that very backward area, he broke one barrier. In fact, I myself had one mental bias that all these music kind of thing, the invocation will be sung only by women. That is what I'm used to. When Mallikarjun came to the mic, I was surprised. And when he sang so beautifully, I was so happy. And in his own way, he broke that barrier. And the boy is very shy. When we tried to talk to him, in fact, I praised him in my speech. He became so shy because he is not used to that kind of attention or recognition. But in a very small way, by just being himself, by being natural, he broke a barrier. So I think that is important, that, we each, you cannot put all the burden of everything. If there's an electric fuse in the house, let the man do it. That is also a kind of bias. Or only woman should do the cooking, that is also a kind of bias. So there are many small ways in which we recognize these biases in ourselves and encourage each other and build up each other's competencies, the men and women. So I don't think that day we begin, stop seeing these two as, polar opposites. That is the best day for women's empowerment or capability building.
Thank you, ma'am. There is one particular thing that I read somewhere called male ego. Sometimes it is supersede for women's talents and within the house. So, ma'am, can you explain something how the male can, overcome this particular phenomena called male ego? Because sometimes I seen it is a question of related to social science. But I've seen that in many family, that due to such issues, the things are the women's are or girls are not getting right opportunity.
Yeah, if a man feels threatened or anyone feels threatened, he will block the other person's growth. But now again, I am very, very unwilling to brand all males as egoists, because that is simply not true. But where you do see how do you overcome ego, whether male or female ego, is only to recognize the attributes of others. See, none of us are repositories of wisdom or knowledge or talent. We are not the best in everything. The moment you open your eyes, open your mind to the other person's talents, then you will be able to open your hands and, bring them up and support them, open the windows of opportunity for them. So that understanding can come only with realizing that each of us have our limitations, and those limitations can be overcome by partnership, whether it is of the other gender or another group. This applies to all kinds of groupism, whether it's male, female. We have many kinds of groups in our country. We have caste and gender and region and language. Only when we try to overcome these, realize that we have some positive attributes, so do others. And it is not only our duty to encourage our own attributes or our own talents, but also encourage the others. Because then the society as a whole will rise opportunities will increase and our country will grow. So the best antidote to egoism is to realize the other person's positive attributes or talents. Give recognition to another.
Thank you, ma'am. But I think, ma'am, you must take the trademark on the title that you have given back a capability check. Participants are really appreciating the title that you have suggested. And we really appreciate that you did the 20-minute presentations and 40 minutes question and answer. Ma'am, we are I'm concluding the sessions, but before that, there is one question. Can you recommend any books? Because we have very intellectual crowd, so they wanted to learn something more related to this, or what are kind of the book that you suggest to this particular community? Because we usually say it is a social entrepreneur, they are a socially conscious community. So can you suggest one or two books for them to read for further, for improving their knowledge? Okay. Yeah, ma'am.
So books, is it? Okay.
Yes.
One book which I am reading now, actually, this is what I would suggest. Sapiens. This is by Yuval Noah Harari. He is a philosopher, historian from Israel. Very thoughtful and very beautifully written book. So this is something which I would recommend. This is what I am reading right now. In fact, all Yuval Noah Harari's books. He has written 3, if I recall. One is Sapiens, that's the first book. Homo Deus is the second book. And the third book is 21 Lessons for the 21st Century. In fact, I read the third book first. My introduction to Harari came from his first book, from his third book. So these 3 books, they really show how the world around us is changing and how we should change to be able to cope with the challenges which the world is going to bring. Whether in terms of technology, whether in terms of healthcare, we are seeing now how much COVID-19 is, challenging us. Because we thought we are so advanced. Then suddenly we find that a very small virus, which we can't see, which we can't touch, we can't hear, we can't feel it, but it is giving us a challenge. So he shows how the world around us will be changing in the in the coming decades, the coming century. So this, Yuval Noah Harari's books are something which I would recommend. They are very far-seeing in that sense, futuristic thinking. It's something which immediately came to mind because just lying right next to me. In fact, just before our session started, I was reading. It's a very good book.
The last question, the Mayur Thakkar asked, it is about the jealousy. So can you explain? We can take, because we don't want to dissatisfy any participant. Something about jealousy and the related the issue with empowerment and capacity, ma'am.
Acknowledge that Mayur Thakkar, is it? Acknowledge yes. The person who is not jealous with the growth of juniors or downtrodden. Yeah, I see. About jealousy and envy, I have only one thing to say. This is an peculiarly Indian disease, I think. I would only say that you must just remove all traces of jealousy and envy from your mind and heart, from your side. And if it is jealousy of others, you must simply learn to ignore it completely. You must behave as though the other person is not jealous at all. That that is the only way. And I think this is not just because of the ethical dimension. I'm very happy. Thank you for asking that question, Mayur Thakkar, because this is article of belief for me. That see, one side is the ethical thing, that being jealous or harming a person or hurting a person because jealousy is wrong. So that is the moral dimension, the ethical dimension. But there is also a practical dimension. See, in today's world, you cannot achieve anything solo. Nobody can do it. Now, if you are running an NGO, Mr. Sanjay is running an NGO, he cannot do it all alone by himself. He needs a group of people around him who are working with him, who are also sharing his thoughts and his vision and are able to translate it into action. Or let us take a scientist, Higgs boson. Is it possible to do this, to have any kind of scientific advancement without collaboration? All science today's research, those days when Charles Darwin was the lone scientist and he went around the world and he came up with the theory of evolution, that is not so today. That all scientific activity is group activity. Let us take COVID-19. GlaxoSmithKline and French company Sanofi, they are coming together. These are rivals, they are competitors, okay, in the pharmaceutical field. But when COVID-19 has struck us, they are coming together to produce an antigen. Okay, now Sanofi is engaged in anti-COVID vaccine production, and GlaxoSmithKline produces a kind of antigen which helps to enhance the effect of any vaccine. And so they are bringing their relative strengths together. I have some core capacity or competence, you have a core competence. We bring it together, and they are forgetting their rivalry in the pharmaceutical business, in the marketing business, and they are coming together for the welfare of humanity. So all development is going to be collaborative in future. And so it makes sense to get rid of envy and jealousy, because if you are going to pull somebody else's leg, tomorrow he is going to pull your leg. And this will go on ad infinitum. And all of us will be left either pulling another person's leg or protecting ourselves from somebody pulling our legs, instead of all of us rising together. So both from the moral and ethical dimension and from the practical and pragmatic dimension, simply ignore jealousy and envy of all kinds, in fact negativity of all kinds, and that will really help society to progress. We Indians are very bad at this. We are very intelligent, but we like to pull each other down. We should simply stop doing that. Thank you for that question.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. We really appreciate you have given formula for 3C, like competency, courage, and compassion. And you have also given us 3 formula for your own success, like time management, to avoid the gossiping, and to be honest. I mean, avoid cheating like this. And ma'am, you have also given the creative words, like work, crime, and creative economics. I think it is a really thought-provoking session for everyone. Ma'am, would you like to say the last things or last suggestion or anything in the last minute we wanted to say for future perspective?
Okay, I'll just leave you with this last thought that, of course, I spoke about this, but it's a very important belief of mine that all of us have a responsibility towards society. So I call this, and since you are speaking of, phrases, personal social responsibility or individual social responsibility is very important. We always think that it's government's responsibility, or we call it corporate social responsibility. Everything is somebody else's responsibility. But you and I have a responsibility. And I call that personal social responsibility. This society has given us something, whatever we are, at whatever level we may be. This is because society has contributed, has not come in our way, and we are able to do our education or earn a livelihood or succeed in life. So it is our duty to give back to society. It's a payback. You are not doing anyone any charity. It's a payback for that debt which we have towards society. So personal social responsibility is very important, and please do this in any way you can, in whatever you are good at. As I said, if you're good at singing, go and sing in a hospital. I have a classmate, she's a good singer from childhood. She goes to hospitals and she sings for the ICU patients. And that has been, very much appreciated by the patients. Now, if you're good at poetry, then teach poetry to the children around you. Everybody is not, would not, as I said, Ankit Trivedi or Shamal, but everyone may not be familiar. If you are familiar, share it with others. So the best way is to give in some way in whatever you are best at. So always exercise and practice personal social responsibility. So that is my last message, I think.
Thank you, ma'am. I think in each questions, in each answer, you have given the lots of things. Your one sentence needs, it has wonderful explanations. So thank you, ma'am, for making our day. I think this is the Sunday, and all the participants they really got the lots of thought-provoking ideas from you. On behalf of all the non-profit community, social sector leaders, I would like to extend my deep thanks, and we acknowledge your support and your quick response. Ma'am, you have so much responsibility in your heads, but still you are getting the time for everyone. And with our simple mail, you have immediately shown yes, because we know that you are quite concerned about the social sector leaders. And we at Navjivan Center for Development, we really appreciate, the contribution of all people. By running an organization, they are giving good to the society. Now, the one thing is the feedback link that we have already shared in the chat box. So participants are requested to submit their feedbacks to claim their certificates and give us 2 to 3 working days for your certifications. And for any other questions or support, feel free to contact us. Dr. Kalpana Gopalan, ma'am, Additional Chief Secretary, Department of Youth and Sports, Government of Karnataka. Ma'am, we are really thankful to you for making our day and addressing our community. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I enjoyed the session. Thank you for the questions. They helped me to think.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. So with your kind permission, we will end up the session over here, ma'am.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Yeah. So thank you everyone for joining us today. Thank you.